What we're doing is absolutely not a surveillance program. We're just replacing the evaluation and scrutiny of the physical ID with the computer algorithm.
ICE and security officials defending the use of facial recognition searches in driver's license databases to find illegal immigrants. Now, members of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection getting grilled by the House Homeland Security Committee. This coming after a company working with the CBP on this technology was hacked, and that caused concern that sensitive personal data was being released. Mike Rogers is the ranking member of the Homeland Security Committee. He joins us now. Congressman, after what you heard today, should ICE have access to this technology?
Of course. You know, the thing that was emphasized today in the hearing was, first of all, they're using DMV driver's license pictures. Those are public records. There is no reasonable expectation of privacy in those public records. But also, they're only doing the things that have manually been done heretofore, where they're taking a driver's license or a passport that's being handed to the individual, let's say at TSA, and they're comparing it to your likeness in person. This will just use a machine which is not apt to have fatigue or make errors like human beings do.
Congressman, given the state of photography with most motor vehicle bureaus, are those photographs really going to be helpful?
Yeah. Nobody likes their driver's license pictures, Steve. That's a good point. But, you know, they made the point today. We had one of the individuals from NIST that was there, and he made the point that with the advancements that have occurred in just the last couple of years, they have a 99.7% accuracy rate. That's pretty phenomenal.
So, Congressman, I think many of us would like this to be part of a larger discussion about how do we legally and regulatorily deal with the burgeoning of these technologies of facial recognition so that we do not lead our government to have power in the way, let's say, the Chinese government is using power of recognition over citizens, and that power is used to protect citizens. Do you feel that conversation is being had? Will it be had more comprehensively in Congress?
I think that point was driven home today. That's our real concern. I don't think it's worry about law enforcement using public records to find bad guys. But we are very concerned about the fact that if these photos, for example, are stored in a database that can be hacked, that could be used by some nefarious actor, and we don't want that. In fact, when you look at driver's license records, the 1994 Driver's Privacy Protection Act says that those records can be shared with other governments, and it's for law enforcement purposes, but it says it cannot be sold commercially. Same reason, we want to maintain privacy for individuals when it's outside the realm of law enforcement purposes.
Congressman, I want to go broader and talk about the existence of DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, because one of your influential peers across the aisle, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she has suggested abolishing the DHS. Take a listen.
ICE is not under DOJ. It's under the Department of Homeland Security. And so we have now...
Would you get rid of Homeland Security, too?
We need to undo a lot of the egregious mistakes that the Bush administration did.
Yeah, well, the Department of Homeland Security, Congressman, was established, of course, after 9/11 to protect this country. So what do you make of this?
She's different. I'll give her that. First of all, I was surprised that a representative that represents part of New York City would take that position, given that they lost nearly 3,000 lives in the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
So is it disrespectful then, Congressman?
Oh, absolutely. It was disrespectful. But it was also basically naive. And when you look at the fact that committee after 9/11, and I've been on this committee since it was first established as a select committee before it became permanent. So I've watched the department grow and mature and get better at what they do, and know for a fact they have helped prevent other attacks. And we have had some that couldn't be prevented or weren't prevented, like Fort Hood, the Boston bombings. But there have been many terrorist attempts and organizations that have been thwarted that the public has no idea about, because we cannot let them know what happened, because it would give up our sources. Job of keeping us safe, but also these entities are necessary for our country to have lawful borders. For example, she's talking about getting rid of CBP and ICE. Who does she think is going to protect our borders from MS-13 gang members, from gun runners, from sex traffickers, all the bad actors aside from terrorists that want to come across our borders and bring up their bad acting behaviors with them.
Yeah,
it was just a naive statement.
Can you imagine a country Can you imagine a country without ICE, without the border protection? I mean, is that what really she is getting at here, where she didn't even have a solution? She just said, let's just get rid of them.
That's exactly right, which is why I said it's naive at best, and I'm being generous with my language. I don't want to be hateful on TV.
Congressman, before the Department of Homeland Security, we did have Border Patrol, we did have anti-terrorist organizations within the FBI. We had them within
9/11.
No, I'm just saying there were critiques at the time of the creation of DHS as an unwieldy department that has been incredibly difficult to run and has been plagued by bureaucratic issues as well as lack of coordination between the actual units within the Department of Homeland Security. Now, you can say we should fix those, and I'm not, let's leave AOC's comments aside, but you can be absolutely respectful and patriotic and still think that there are issues here that need fixing.
Those are all fair critiques. Again, I've been on this committee since it was established, when the department was established, and we've seen all that unwieldiness, that gangliness in their organizational growth and development. They have grown and developed and gotten much better at what they do. The fact is, the 22 agencies that were thrown together that formed DHS initially were in existence before 9/11. They couldn't stop it. But you see, since then, we have not had another major attack on our homeland, and it's in large part because, as a group, this organization has worked effectively.
Congressman, several years ago, the Chinese hacked a major insurance company in this country, got 80 million in medical records.
Right.
Do we have real safety on those photographs? Because they can match those up, and while our government may not use it for nefarious purposes, others might.
Well, to the extent we have cybersecurity, we have safety on it, but I'm not worried about driver's license photos. Again, those are public records. Anybody has access to those. So I'm not worried about those being hacked. I worry about, let's say we started recognition into other areas of what we do at Homeland Security. We have to make sure that those facial images are not retained. That was kind of the point that was driven home today. You can use facial recognition to compare a driver's license or a passport to an individual. But once you've done that image comparison, it needs to go away. It does not need to be stored.
Well, I hope my driver's license picture is not retained. I can tell you that for one. I think Steve's in the same boat. Hey, Congressman, thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Well, the World Cup champions getting